Hey there, and welcome to your deep dive. Today, we're jumping pretty much headfirst into the world of sociology.
Yeah, it's a fascinating field. You've given us some great sources, articles, and bits of reading. And, well, our mission is to boil down the really key stuff for you.
Right. Think of it like getting a bit of a shortcut to understanding what sociology is actually about, without all the dense academic language getting in the way.
Exactly. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll start seeing the world, maybe even your own life, in some surprising new ways.
Ready to get started.
Okay, let's unpack this. So, sociology, at its core, it's the study of how people behave in groups. But maybe even more importantly, it's about how those groups and, like, the whole society we're in, actually shape us, our behavior.
Ah, okay. So it's not just about what individuals do, but the forces kind of pushing and pulling on them.
Precisely, yeah. Sociology is all about that link, that connection between the big picture stuff like the structure of society, institutions like family, education, the economy, and our own individual experiences and actions, day-to-day life.
You can look at huge trends or just like a simple conversation.
And it's, relatively speaking, a pretty new way of thinking, right? Came about because of these massive changes, the Industrial Revolution, the Enlightenment.
Right, people trying to make sense of a rapidly changing world.
Exactly. Now, how does this actually help you see things differently? Well, one really, really key idea is the sociological imagination.
Okay, I've heard of that. C. Wright Mills. He called it a specific quality of mind, didn't he? What's it actually do?
Yeah, it's powerful. It lets you connect your own sort of personal troubles, things that feel unique to you, to bigger public issues happening in society.
All right.
Like, say, struggling to find a decent job. Feels very personal, right? But the sociological imagination helps you see if maybe it's connected to something wider, a recession maybe, industry changes.
I see.
It's about understanding the link between your own life story, your biography, and the larger sweep of history, the social structures around you, seeing the interplay.
Okay, so it stops you from just thinking it's all my fault and helps you see the bigger context. That makes a lot of sense.
It really does. Okay, another big concept, social construction.
Right.
This is the idea that a lot of things we tend to think of as just fixed or natural or inevitable are actually created and shaped by our society and culture over time.
Yeah.
They're constructed.
Can you give an example? What did the sources mention?
Sure. Things like gender or sexuality are good examples from the readings. What society considers masculine or feminine, well, that's not just down to biology. It changes hugely across different cultures, different times.
So society kind of builds the rules and expectations around these things.
Exactly. It builds the meaning. And that influences how we act, how we see ourselves, how others see us. Same goes for ideas about sexuality. What's considered normal or acceptable is very much shaped by social norms and beliefs.
Okay, and speaking of rules and norms, that brings us to social order, right? How does society, hang together? How does it keep functioning day to day?
Good question. Is it just because we all agree on the same values?
Yeah, is that it?
Well, that's part of the story. The sources mention how order comes partly from us internalizing shared standards. We learn what's expected, but it also comes from how others react to us, the sanctions we get, positive or negative, for following or breaking the rules.
Like getting praised or maybe getting a weird look?
Exactly. Role expectations, sanctions, it's reciprocal. We learn the normal way to behave.
But societies aren't always harmonious, are they? There's conflict, too.
Oh, absolutely. Social order isn't always about consensus. It can involve power, even coercion. And societies can function, sort of, even without one single set of universally shared values. Plus, the rules themselves aren't just handed down. They also emerge from the ground up, from how we all interact constantly. Thinkers like Foucault also pointed out how power works through norms, setting up systems, like in schools or hospitals, that guide our behavior, often through surveillance or regulation.
Okay, so these are some fundamental ways of looking at society. And these ideas came from somewhere you mentioned, the early thinkers.
Yeah, people trying to get a handle on the massive shifts happening back then. The big three often mentioned are Durkheim, Marx, and Weber.
The classics. Can you give us just like the core idea from each that's still relevant, just briefly?
Okay, sure. Durkheim, he was really interested in what held the new industrial societies together. He talked about solidarity, the shared beliefs and values acting like social glue. And he coined anomie, that sense of confusion, rootlessness, when those shared standards break down. He even linked it to things like suicide rates.
Right, the importance of shared norms. What about Marx?
Marx saw society fundamentally shaped by economic conflict. Specifically, the struggle between the owners, the bourgeoisie, and the workers, the proletariat, under capitalism. For him, the economy was the base, influencing everything else, politics, culture, even religion, which he sometimes saw as a tool used by the powerful.
Okay, focus on conflict and the economy. And Weber.
Weber also studied capitalism, but he brought culture and ideas back into the picture. More strongly, think of his famous work on the Protestant ethic. He was really focused on rationalization, this trend of modern life becoming increasingly organized around efficiency, calculation, and bureaucracy. He worried this could create an iron cage, trapping us in impersonal systems.
And he saw class as more than just money, right?
Exactly. He added status and power as crucial dimensions alongside economic class.
Wow, okay. So, a lot to think about there. We've got these concepts, these thinkers. What's the main takeaway for, someone listening to this right now, maybe a student at JCTC?
Well, the big thing is that this deep dive, this introduction, gives you tools, mental tools, like the sociological imagination, understanding social construction, seeing how order works. These help you look at your own experiences, the news, social problems, even just the dynamics in your own groups, college, community, family, with a deeper understanding.
So it helps make sense of things, cuts through some of the confusion maybe,
Yeah.
gives you frameworks to analyze all the information coming at us.
Exactly. It helps you see the patterns, the connections, the underlying social forces that shape what's happening on the surface.
We've really only scratched the surface here, haven't we?
Oh, definitely. Sociology is a huge field.
But hopefully this gives you a taste of how looking at the world sociologically can, change how you see things. So here's a final thought. Now that you have this little bit of a sociological lens, just look around today. What's one everyday situation, maybe something you read or see or experience, that you might pause and think about differently now? Ask yourself, okay, how might society be shaping this? Keep that curiosity going.